Off-world stage observer. World stage media does not have to be your primary frame of reference. The gate-kept minds of the hyper-mediated do not have to gatekeep your reality. The off-world stage observer takes the MSM- approach to interpreting the presented facts. This means subtracting the unverifiable aspects, the conjecture, and the hearsay. The off-world stage observer must shift the burden of proof to those propagating the extraordinary claims, reject the expectation that we automatically believe in every atrocity or threat scenario, question their claims, especially when they involve shocking claims and body counts, refuse to treat hearsay or the visual equivalent, hearsay, as evidence. Re-examine past media claims, especially when these reinforce a contemporary psyop narrative. No news stories are sacrosanct or immune to good faith scrutiny and skeptical investigation. Who or what is the final arbiter of truth when it comes to what you accept? A media outlet, the consensus, a specific pundit, or is it your own critical thinking faculties? Stepping off the world stage is to remove its filter and replace it with your own logical framework that operates within a philosophical understanding of what media is. It can be likened to exiting a relationship with a liar. Filtering one's experiences through another's distorted version of events places one into an augmented reality, and one's worldview is slightly altered. This splinter reality is, in a microcosm, what the mass mind entered into with the filtration of media and religion. How does one avoid the trap of ignorance without having to pay attention to the overwhelming flood of conflicting narratives? If you're not interested in the daily deluge of infotainment drama, here is how you avoid the traps of accepting the default consensus view on everything without being plugged in. Look for the motives behind the stories. We ask what happened, not who did it, because the "it" has to be established as a factual event. Asking the question, "Did it happen at all?" is a good starting point. Are the questionable elements fakeable? To assume the premise established by the initial reporting is to build on a foundation of hearsay and hearsay. The initial skepticism will save you the trouble of navigating the labyrinth of mainstream rabbit trails. Traditional conspiracy theorists tend to believe the mainstream is lying about the events reported on, but they don't dispute that the events happened or that people died. Conspiracy theorists ask, who is really responsible? Auto-hoaxers ask, did it even happen? World stage media. History is a set of lies agreed upon. Napoleon Bonaparte. Our reality-fluid world stage is a part magic show, part reality television, and part news reporting. The artificial reality construct and its metascripts are now laid bare for anyone to see. When you're at home watching Netflix, you're at the de facto state church. The entertainment is a side effect of the programming, of being surreptitiously indoctrinated into the church of state. What do we do with this? The answer is to see past the special effects and movie magic and independently determine the parameters of this reality. If we examine the past to understand how we got here, we run into conflicting accounts of what happened, according to those with the power and influence to have a say in it. But what about the present news, before it becomes history? Would it not follow that the news media, too, is a set of narratives agreed upon? Look past the political divides shrilly accentuated by theatrics, and you may notice behind the myriad of small differences in opinion regarding life's everyday mundane questions, there is a strong consensus agreement about the big questions. The realm of possibility. The Overton window is the range of policies politically acceptable to the mainstream population at a given time. Right now, that window is wide open. In many ways, the television screen has become a literal Overton window. If it's on the screen, it gets instant access to the realm of possibility. On the world stage, reality is what liars can get away with. Therefore, the realm of possibility and the world stage are two different things, though they overlap physically. We are in a state of philosophical crisis because this apparent window has been so widely accepted as such when it's actually a filter. This filter acts as a stand-in for the individual's conscious deliberation. Instead of deciding if there is reason to believe, the filtered minds accept what is presented as believable. This eliminates the need to gather more information. This willful, ignorant position is threatened by suggestions their faith has been misplaced. You cannot honestly and in good faith record a light in the night sky and declare it's a possible alien UFO or mysterious government craft, or proclaim a noise heard in the woods is a Bigfoot, until you rule out a natural explanation with evidence. Hitchens's razor, an epistemological razor, and a general rule for rejecting certain knowledge claims states, "When what can be asserted without evidence can also be dismissed without evidence." The inclusion of any supernatural phenomenon is not in the realm of possibility and therefore a non sequitur fallacy until it has been proven to exist first. Believing something without reason or in the face of contradiction requires a deliberate decision to not perceive it as an individual observer, but as a member of a hive taking perceptions second-hand. Hearsay and see-say, the visual equivalent of hearsay. Those who automatically believe what the world stage media says necessarily rely upon a middleman, a blue-check verified source, so they don't have to think. They don't seem to consider that allowing the media to invalidate their perceptions is to put their faith in a filtered version of how things are. Since most agree with what the filter provides, most don't resist it, or worse, attack the non-believer, the skeptic and the doubter. The issue with this is the sheer subjectivity of the group mind. One decade the UFO believer is ridiculed. The next, they are held up as paragons of science. The auto-believer. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. George Orwell. Who thinks for you? Who or what is the final arbiter over what you accept, in your mind, as true? Have you outsourced your thinking when it comes to the reality as presented via the world stage media filters? How do so many people believe the mediated version by default? This is a problem of epistemology and the philosophical error inherent in masking one's mind with the mainstream media filter. What is your relationship to media? Do you believe in media? This is an important question. Do you believe in science? These are misleading questions rooted in a faulty understanding of what media and science are. The fact-finding processes of science or journalism are methods of determining what is real. Your critical thinking faculties do the same. However, when selectively outsourcing critical thinking, one is vulnerable to perceptual manipulation. This epistemological blind spot is what world stage media takes advantage of. You must choose to either remain in the default position of EA, world stage centric, and therefore misinformed with the latest consensus-based agreed-upon beliefs, or EB, off world stage centric, from where the self is the final arbiter of what is a faith-based belief and what constitutes knowledge. It is not denying reality to question consensus beliefs that are contradicted by what you know. Asserting hearsay as evidence or using appeals to authority is closer to reality denialism than rejecting questionable claims. The auto-hoaxer. An auto-hoaxer is one who requires evidence for claims made by pathologically lying media, especially when the claims are extraordinary. This requires shifting the burden of proof to the claim maker if the claim is not attended by facts. Have you ever called a bluff or demanded truth from a liar? To stand on the truth, you have to be willing to stand on truth against the lies that bond and bind the consensus. We all share the same external reality. Our differences are a matter of our frame of reference and its resultant interpretation. Repelling lies and deception is largely a matter of shifting the burden of proof to its rightful bearer. The auto-hoaxer is often left having to suspend judgment and is therefore not obligated to overreact to every news headline. The consensus is conditioned to rush to judgment with limited facts and a cognitive bias. There is a process required to know something, an internal process of cognition that requires factual information. Beliefs are rapidly assumed true on the basis of emotion, believability, and a myriad of potential logical fallacies. Knowledge may require additional research, fact-finding, and a thorough examination of available facts. This is not always conclusive immediately, and may explain why there is pressure to believe and resentment toward those conspiracy theorists who are questioning alleged facts. If you find this subject interesting, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear the rest of the series, the IPSD program, a skeptic's guide to the theater of Psywar and IPS production.